Thank you, everybody here. Nice to see everybody. Are there any additions to the agenda for this evening? Any changes to the agenda order? So the next order of business is the approval of the minutes. We have two meetings to approve tonight. One is the regular meeting that we had on October 26th. And I have them, don't worry. And so does anybody have any amendments or changes to the October 26th minutes?
Oh, that'd be approved.
You move that they be approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the minutes for the special select board meeting we had on October 30th. Any recommendations for changes, edits,
So moved.
So, sorry, I just wanted to say that I asked Ron today to correct two wrong words. One was that instead of what, and another one was
Another one should.
to delete about. So, from what everybody has seen, they are slightly changed. So, is there a move to accept those minutes?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. While we're signing those, I'll say that our first order of business was going to be Cheryl Franklin, but there was a special meeting on the budget tonight, and Cheryl's not able to make it, and she sent no materials for us to discuss this evening. I'm suspecting that she will have something for us to talk about shortly.
I'm hoping.
Okay, so hopefully we got through this, everything else just as quickly. Penny, you have something to report to us?
Yes, I do.
On the
It's
property
kind of,
tax?
Short and long. We did close out the 2015 property taxes, and so all of you have a copy of the same report I have here. If you look at the bottom number, the total delinquencies we have are $389,702.78.
That is as of today?
As of today. A year ago, at this time, our delinquencies were $512,589.12. So a difference of $122,886.34 less on the current delinquency books. I told you I would keep you abreast to let you know what was going on with the delinquencies. As of January 1 of 15, I was appointed as the delinquent tax collector. July 1, we had a policy in place and procedures, which is really a step program. And based on that, we have now 22 liens that I have recorded that we have against property owners. As of November 1st, we had 97 delinquents that I had sent out.
So, I'm sorry, say that again, November 1st,
Yes.
post the 10/15 due date.
Right.
Okay,
I sent out 97 delinquent bills. As of today, due to, when I sent those bills out, there was a letter sent, which is our policy, and the bill, and just letting them know the process and that they need to come in. As of today, we have 79 delinquent bills. So we have a difference that has already been collected and taken care of.
and have you heard from the other 80 to 72 people?
No, but within that, of course, we had 42 bills prior to the collection of 2015. So there's that additional, which is 2015 delinquencies, which we know is gonna happen. There's that handful of people that, for various reasons, just didn't get here to pay their taxes. And I'm sure that's where that big number of, from 97 down to 79 is. So of course, I haven't set up agreements for 2015 taxes yet, because we're so new into the year. So that will come along, but for the 2014 and back, I do have 15 agreements.
So this
that
is,
have been
okay,
set up.
prior to 2014? Or 2014 or before?
Correct. So there is progress,
Mm-hmm.
and I still think we're talking 2 years before you really see a big difference, but I was happy to see that big window, rather than go up, which it has in the past, is going down.
So if I'm reading these right, in 2013, we had over $657,000 worth of delinquent taxes. 2015, it was 512, and now it's down to 389.
Yes.
A lot of hard work. Thank you. So are you expecting a lot more in the next quarter?
Kind of depends on, like I said, I have 22 liens. Out of that 22 liens, it brought 3 people in to set up agreements. So unfortunately, there are a handful that are long-standing, and I'm sure they will not be in for agreements. I have one that has promised to come in, but has not.
Because you had quite a flurry of activity in here the past few weeks on this, right?
Yeah, and that was the result of
Yeah.
when we sent the delinquent tax bills out. We never have in the past, but because we do have a policy and we are enforcing it, that letter went with even the ones that had agreements. Everybody got the same packet.
Any questions?
Nope.
Steve?
Penny, do you know how many of the 79 that are still outstanding are new this year?
Well, it would be 42, subtract 79, what's that, 4, 5, 6, 7, 30,
30 some are,
30,
30 some are new.
37.
Right, okay. And then the rest of them are multi-year.
Right. So, but that's expected. We always expect for at least November, December,
Right.
you're gonna have a handful of people that, for whatever reasons, it just happens.
Thank you. Any other? Thank you so much, Pam. It was kind of a great, and very impressive to see that, all that activity going on this last couple of weeks.
Progress.
We are having, she is making progress. Steve, you're up for the floodplain map.
You don't mind, I'd like to sidle up and get here so I can hand out some. Yeah, Kathy, that's why she thought you got a bad neck. I have to say, when I was appointed floodplain administrator, I did it with great willingness, and I have to say, after my full day of training in September, I now am much more conversant with what that all meant.
Now you know what there is a lot.
Right. So now I'm gonna, if some of you may know a lot about this and some may not know a lot, but I think just for the purposes of what will get me on the right track and I think is important to the town, I'm gonna report on a few things that I learned, and also I'm gonna sort of stick to my notes so that I don't get too far off the path. We'll make it as quick as possible. In September, I went to what I thought was an excellent full-day training. It was put on by Elisa Sabeto in the Wyndham Regional Commission. She did a great job of organizing it. They got so many people, they had to hold it at a different place. They had 35 people attended, and that was a mix of new and experienced floodplain administrators and a wide variety of town officials from various local towns and some from New Hampshire. It was pretty impressive that FEMA sent a senior specialist from Boston and a regional program specialist from Connecticut. There was also the Department of Environmental Conservation regional flood plan manager from the Rutland office there. Yeah.
May I ask you a quick question?
Would you let me have a copy of that when you're done?
So that, because I see him trying to take notes and he doesn't
Yeah,
have
you know, I got all
for
the.
the agenda, so that maybe you could make some notes on
There's
that.
actually one for everybody, but you don't need to look at that.
Best.
Okay, Steve.
But I can send it to you by
Yeah.
electronically too, and you can just cut and paste.
No,
So what did we learn? It was a full day. They broke the first half of the day up into pretty much history, and then second day was roles, responsibilities for the individuals and for the towns. So I learned that in 1968, the federal government passed the National Flood Insurance Act, which spawned another program called the National Flood Insurance Program. The National Flood Insurance Program, called NFIP, set national standards for floodplain construction and provides heavily discounted flood insurance for residents of towns that join the program. It's a voluntary joining, but Guilford voluntarily joined the national program in 1974, and FEMA did the first flood insurance rate maps in 1986. So what happens is the federal government said, we want to cut down on losses, we'd like to get more people insured, we're going to have this NFIP, National Flood Insurance Program, we'll make it voluntary, but we encourage all the towns to do it because it also helps them monitor floodplain and get people insured, and it also qualifies you for better coverage in the event of a disaster like Irene gave us. Okay. So, and by the way, of the roughly 250 towns of Vermont, only 23 do not belong to the NFIP. So it's not something that Guilford is standing out there on the limb all by itself. The floodplain establishes special flood hazard areas, and those are identified as those areas that have a 1% annual chance or better of being inundated by floodwaters. So what it means is that floodplains are not wetlands, okay? So and the question is, floodplains can be built in. They are, there are areas that are mapped by FEMA that are X amount of distances from rivers and lakes and streams and brooks and so forth that are likely on a 1% chance to be inundated by water, all right? But what you should know, even though they talk about a 1% chance and a 100-year flood, those sound like low numbers, but if you translate those numbers into a house sitting in the floodplain on a 30-year mortgage, that house has a 26% chance over the life of that 30-year mortgage of being inundated with water. But it doesn't mean you can't build in a floodplain. It just means what the NFIP does is it sets out the standards by which you are allowed to build in a floodplain, okay? And FEMA is behind, is the one that does all the mapping, the Federal Emergency Management Act. If you were to Google FEMA and then firm for Guilford, you would see the maps, and you could actually put an address in. They're not the easiest maps to use right now, but the Agency of Natural Resources and others are doing them, but as you're saying, it can be tough. In 2007, the Guilford Select Board created a flood hazard bylaw, and it's a 12-page bylaw. I'll just put it out here. Basically, it follows all the NFIP guidelines. Ann and Dick were select board members at the time. And if you look at it, it pretty much covers everything that the town has to do for the individuals that are, because we belong to the NFIP program, and with the residents. So it covers, it basically says this is to promote public health, safety, and general welfare, to prevent increases in flooding caused by the uncontrolled development of lands and flood hazard, and to minimize the losses due to flooding, and to maintain the town's eligibility to participate in the National Flood Insurance Program. All right. So this 12-page bylaw says in no uncertain terms what has to happen, when it has to happen, how it has to happen. Okay. So what I've learned is that it is possible, as I said, to build within a floodplain, provided the base flood elevation is established for the site. The base flood elevation is set by the maps that FEMA does. Right? So you might find like the average feet above sea level for Guilford on Route 5 by the Episcopal Church is 400 feet. Where Broad Brook goes into Vernon, it's 150 feet. All right. So what happens is that if somebody decided they were going to buy a piece of land right now, adjoining Broad Brook, and let's say they had some money saved up and they bought that piece of property from their neighbor, and there was no realtor involved, no loan involved, and they thought, okay, I'll pay my $20,000 or my $50,000, $100,000, doesn't matter what. I'll save my money for 5 years and then build a house, right? And then they go to the bank and they say, I'd like a loan to build my $100,000 house on my $10,000 piece of land right on the brook, and I know just where I want my house to sit. If they're in the floodplain along Broad Brook, the lender's going to say, no, you can't just build it there. We're not going to give you a loan to do that. And they're not gonna be able to get reduced flood insurance for it if they could get any flood insurance for it. But if they came to us, if they identified that, came to the town and said, I'd like to build a house in this area, the town should have a form to give them, a policy to show them, and my name to talk to. Because what they really have to do, the lender will do this too. The minute a lender gets involved, as Abby, as Gabby, you probably know, the lender pretty much puts into a mortgage thing a $75 payment so that you have to get certified that you're not in the floodplain. And if you aren't, all bets are off. You can just do what you want to within reason. But after that, if you are, you have to go through the process. So what I learned that the town has to do is, number one, appoint a floodplain administrator. That I'd like to say, have and provide access to the flood insurance rate maps and offer those to any interested citizen. So that's not as difficult as it seems. It's electronic. It can be written, printed copies too. Have and provide the proper permitting application forms, and those aren't a mystery either. They're all involved in, they're all part of the book, that comes with it. So there's no mystery here. It's just that they have to be here. Require a completed, and then have a the permitting, then require a completed construction permit and information on any proposed construction within the designated flood hazard area. Now, construction can also mean just filling and things like that. So any development or housing or anything that's going up new, and it also involves reconstruction or added on to anything that's currently in the floodplain. So even if you're in a house that was built in 1962, before all this went into place and things, and you do a reconstruction of the house that's worth more than 50% of the value of the house, you have to go through the process. So you're not just grandfathered automatically in the sequence of it. We have to then, once we get the permit, we have to forward the permit application and our recommendation for positive or negative decision to the Agency of Natural Resources with a guaranteed 30-day approval or disapproval from them. So what happens is they come in, they say, I'd like to build my house, this is where it is. The lender says I'm in a floodplain area. We give them the form, we look at the maps. I or the map say to them, you have to build 6 feet above this level, so maybe you have to build at 100, your baseline, basement level has to be 156 feet above sea level. And somebody, might decide, well, I don't want to do that because I want to buy this piece of property to live down there, not up on the knoll, because it's too close to the road or something else. But it's to get through this process, we go through the whole thing, then we would make our decision on it, send it to A&R as a review, so that the town is not culpable in the sense of liability. If I say, oh yeah, it looks good to me, and it's not, then A&R steps in and says, nice try, but that's wrong, okay? So we are protected on that side. Then we issue or deny the permit for anyone building within the floodplain. Then if we say yes, it goes, we have to monitor the construction for compliance. Because once you say you have to build to this, you have to make sure that that's what's happening. You have to maintain all the records in perpetuity here, right, in the office here. And you have to monitor historical and existing structures that were constructed prior to the formation of the NFIP. And monitor areas for any other related issues such as RVs. So for example, I know that in some of the floodplain areas, recreational vehicles are parked in places that they are prone to inundation. And I know because the same looking RV turned into an accordion the last time Irene came in here. So what happens is that you can have an RV in an area for 6 months, as long as it's registered to be pulled out, has wheels on it and things like that. If it sits there for more than 6 months, then it has to go through the process of being anchored and so forth. So this is not to see how many rules and regulations we can impose on people. It's really to say, hey, we should take a look at this. During the 911 evaluation of the town, and I'll leave one of these for you to run with other people. This is called the Expanded Community Report for Guilford. It said that 46 buildings are in the special flood hazard area, and that was estimated from the E911 sites.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that, Steve?
So the E911 sites that were done to set up the addresses for the emergency 911, and Dick, do you remember when that was done? was a number of years ago.
Anyway, years ago.
Yeah, so they identified 46 buildings that they said were in the special flood area, okay? I haven't had a chance to, I asked them about that, but I haven't had a chance to get that list of properties yet. But I would like to get that and take a look at it and actually map them to see if they are. Because they were doing it on a guess
Eyeball,
basis.
yeah.
Yeah. 4% of the buildings in Guilford, based on that 46, are in special flood hazard areas. And then the National Flood Insurance Program, we enrolled in that in 1986. You'll see the other thing that I highlighted here, the flood insurance rate maps are in place. Our status is good right now in the regular program. If you don't do the things that if we don't do the things I'm talking about, the town could get conceivably booted out of the NFIP, which would not be a good thing to do, or for the people who are have flood insurance and want to do things. And as you know, the local hazard mitigation plan was approved by FEMA with accolades. You know, so I think things are lined up to do them. So it's also the things that we have to do are the things that I just said. The appoint the administrator, have the forms, get the process down, monitor the construction and things. It's also recommended that the town should request a flood information study, which will make the maps better because it will actually give the required elevations on the maps. That's arbitrary and elected, but we probably should do that. And then we should probably work with realtors, lenders, and listers to ensure that everybody's in sync on which properties are being sold and which ones are being, which have loans and which ones are under construction. And then it says, develop a periodic plan for community outreach so potential buyers and sellers are not surprised by any of these rules. Because it's a bummer if you buy a piece of property thinking that you can just do something, 5 years later, go to, get your loan and can't do it. It's not so good. So when I had a conversation with a couple of realtors, they said, the realtors are pretty responsible in their sense of what they're selling. Now, somebody else who either doesn't know or is a little more loosey-goosey could not bring it up. The lenders are pretty much obligated, but if somebody doesn't go through a realtor, or they go through a realtor who doesn't mention it, or they don't get a loan, they could be surprised.
So if they do like a private sale?
A private sale and then try to build later. So the issue that I would say is, I just wanted to report to you that I think we need to just tighten things up a little bit with the forms and the maps. And I don't know if it's the town administrator's role or the town clerk's role or somebody else's role, so when we fill that position or something, if that makes sense. But I think there should be some contact in addition to me so that I know who I'm going to say, here are the forms and so forth. So
would that fall underneath the lister, with the listers? The lister might be a good one, yes. But there's one thing I'm gonna add to your presentation, that there are issues, I know of two, that were in the flood, FEMA declared it as a floodplain, which get out of it with a M,
yeah,
I'm sorry,
what Dick is saying is that there are people who are in the floodplain on the map.
yes.
And then they say, how can I be in a floodplain? I'm up on Putney Mountain, and so then they can appeal. We go out and look at it and go, yes, this is a mistake, or yes, you're right.
Right, that happened with Steb, right? With his daughter? Happened to Tony and Tony,
So-
the one just above you.
Right.
Yeah.
So it is possible that the maps are wrong, and that's the good, I think the most important thing for the floodplain administrator to do is to act as an advisory position to people, not some environmental cop.
Right.
Under any circumstance.
So for example, if we wanted to add another bay onto the old town garage,
Right,
and it's sitting that close to the brook,
right.
we would have to,
Well, you don't know, it may not.
we don't know, we
But
might not,
But
right?
you would say, we want to do this.
Right.
You'd look in the mirror or come to me or
To the
something.
bank.
And say, this is what we want to do. We would just check and see if it is in the floodplain, and then say, yes, you can build it, but it has to be this, the base level has to be off the ground this much.
Okay.
Now, it also doesn't mean that you have to build it on stilts, it's not the Outer Banks. So the issue that we have is that you you could have a whole area where you park vehicles, for example, as long as the water can flood through and not take that building away. You could have breakaway grates, you know, even crawl spaces on houses can be 3 feet tall with breakaway grates that the water can scoot right through. You know, but what you can't do is just plunk it down in a floodplain and then have it washed away with no consequences.
So I have a couple questions, but I want to find out if other people have before me.
The River Corridor Protection Plan,
Yes.
what do we need to do to make that happen?
That's, I think, underway now, so that's not something that's mine to deal with, but I know that the River Corridor Protection Plan is being looked at, you know, for the town and particularly for Green River, so.
Did we go to a meeting, was there a meeting at the Green River Church a year ago about
That's
this?
a geomorphing,
And what is the status of that?
I don't
Do
know.
you know? And who does know? Is that Alyssa?
Alyssa Sabetta would know, yes.
So, because we need
Or-
that, Ron, the
Yes.
town needs that in order to qualify for the last 5.5%
That's the
funding.
last, that's the only thing for the last 5
So-
I think John Bennett, and the Wyndham Regional would know for certain, John Bennett,
Right, I think John was working on
John was
that
the one
also,
who knows a
wasn't
lot about that.
he? Yeah.
What was that gentleman's
John
name?
John
Bennett,
Bennett
he's the,
of Wyndham Regional.
But just keep in mind, I don't wanna commingle that with what I'm talking
No,
about,
it's
because
okay, it was
because
such-
there's no correlation between the two, other than, but I will say one thing, that the bylaw that you have, which if you look at it and read the NFIP regs, is almost word for word. You know, it's,
Right.
but a town can make, if you want a stronger bylaw for some reason, the town could say, no building in the floodplain, you know, for one reason or another. I'm not advocating one thing or another, I'm just saying, the town has the opportunity to make it more stringent than the NFIP, but not less.
And I think, it's in that bylaw, I can't recall, there's a 50-foot buffer. I think that was at one point, it is in there.
it's very, yes, very
Yeah,
low.
there's, I remember something about it being in there.
The 50-foot buffer is again a recommendation, but the building in the floodplain is hard and fast. You know,
Yeah.
they don't say, you know, you should have a 50-foot, you know, agricultural buffer and things like that, but they do say what you have to do to qualify and to make it happen. And, you know, if anybody wants one, I think I'll print out one of these to put it on file. This is the booklet. You know, it's 60 pages long on all this stuff too. But it's probably good to have one in the town office so that people can say, I don't understand this part. This is written for the layperson, not the, you know.
Is it also possible to get an electronic copy of it
Yes.
and put it on the website?
Yes.
What's
Or
the latest,
put a link?
what's the latest update on flood maps, you know?
Well, the latest one we had was 2007. They're hoping in 15 by 16 they'll have it. If you go on the A&R website, ideally the A&R, Agency of Natural Resource Atlas, which is still in progress, will be this great dynamic thing where you can put in your address, you can find it on the map, and then you can overlay the flood maps, you can overlay the river corridor, you can overlay parcels, you know, because right now, if the A&R Atlas, as they're developing it, were done, we could sit here individually or collectively and call up the floodplains and look at all the properties that are there, you know, and then do a mailing or do nothing, you know, to say to people, this is, you're in a floodplain and these are the things you should be aware of.
So, thank you. It seems to me that you have the outline of a work plan for a year here, and that to really make the community and the select board mindful of what their responsibilities are under the bylaws and under the insurance policy. And you have a couple of questions about who you should work with, and perhaps we should look at what needs to be done. Maybe you could come up with a bare bones proposal of what needs to be done so that we can see to whom we should turn in order to make it, to begin to really implement things, or to make a record of what we're already doing.
Right, so I think what I'll do then, on that recommendation, I'll put down the things that I think should be done and when. Like, this needs to be done immediately, it can be done immediately.
And if
You
it's
know, the forms
cyclical
can be
or,
done.
yeah.
Here are the maps, we can do this, and here's the first, week, here's the next 30 days, here's the next 60, 90, and go on from there. And then some things don't have to be done, but could be done.
Right, so does that make sense to people? Does anybody have any?
Can we make sure we have the forms in the town office?
What'd you say?
Can we make
The
sure, Ron,
forms,
make
yeah.
sure that we have the forms available in the town office and maybe online?
The construction permits and,
Right, the
That
forms that we're
permit
supposed to have?
I just don't know how people would know about it unless we rely on the realtor. So I think one of the important things here is the community outreach, on a rather cyclical basis, as people move in. I mean, one of the things the planning commission has talked about is a welcome packet, but if somebody's just doing a private negotiation with their neighbors, they're not gonna get that welcome packet, they're not gonna know these kind of laws or the bylaws.
Obviously, we can't be responsible for having everybody know everything they should know, but it would be sort of embarrassing for somebody to come in and say, I'm here to get the form and see the maps and things like that, and have somebody say, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Because the other side of it is, and they're not threatening this on any situation unless there's egregious things, but FEMA can come in and evaluate the program and say, where are your records, where are your forms, where are your maps, how many have you had in the past? And if there's nothing, and nothing, that's a little lame. So I think we can solve that pretty fast.
so,
Bottom line is general information, except for those few folks that go to apply for a loan and find out that FEMA has them in the floodplain and they don't know it. And
Yeah.
that's-
Right.
And it's, they get slapped in the face.
Okay,
so
thanks.
I expect we'll hear from you again relatively soon. And Ron, I think you're gonna follow up on the
I will.
river plain.
I will,
Okay.
want that 5%.
Thanks, Ron.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the question of a sheriff versus a state police contract. I sent out some figures to people. We had the sheriff, I'll just run through this information quickly. We had in fiscal year 2015, a total sheriff contract of $4,333 for 8 hours a month. We have a contract for 2016, fiscal year 2016, for $4,608, which we approved, I think, in June. And that is a small increase of $275 over the old budget. For fiscal year 2017, the sheriff's department wants to bill us for 12 hours per month, up by 50% at $49 an hour. And that would make our contract fee $7,056 for fiscal year 2017. We invited the state police to make a presentation to us. I made a small error in my figure here. The contract, if we went with the state police, would be $6,360 maximum, not 6,240. And if we were to go with the state police, that means we would be spending about $800 left. We would be spending a minimum of $800 less for fiscal year 2017. The unknown in the state police contract is the maximum hourly fee is $66.25 a month. And we wouldn't know exactly who's gonna be assigned. However, we also would have 30% fewer hours per month. So, so the questions would be,
What was the sheriff's again for 12 hours?
12 hours at $49 an hour, 12 hours a month at $49 an hour. And that works out to the $7,056.
7,056. And the state police
The
was,
state police would be a maximum of $63.60 for only 8 hours a
right,
month.
and that was a total of how much?
A maximum of $66.25 per hour. And they said their rate varied, that was the highest rate they would charge.
Right.
And that's based on seniority of who is assigned.
But at that price for the 8 hours, it was how much? 6,000
Sorry,
or what?
$6,360.
Maximum.
Right. So I asked a question, I called the sheriff's department today and I had one other question to ask them, which was if there is a routine traffic stop and they find some suspicion of criminal behavior, do they hold the person and call the state police? In which case we're paying for the traffic stop and the waiting time, and then something else. I don't know if we would get charged by the state police or not. Because we wouldn't have that wait time if it was state police holding somebody. So I'm trying to think of what's the efficiency of the sheriff's office versus the state police doing this contract?
What was his answer?
I didn't get an answer yet today. And I don't know how that works. I don't think we need to make a decision tonight. Based on what I had sent out before, I was gonna say, do we wanna make a decision? Is there a recommendation? But I think I'd like to wait until we have that one other piece of information.
I was gonna ask if they gave us draft contracts. I mean, I asked the representative from the state police this, I didn't ask the sheriff. Is there any difference in the services that they provide? So, if we can look at the contracts, maybe that's one way of seeing if they provide any differences of service. I know the state police representative said continuity of, I don't know, you want to go with care or criminal act or whatever, was something that he said in response to my question, but maybe we can drill down if we actually look at the draft contracts.
Ron, did we get that meeting from him?
We did not get a draft contract.
What did he give us?
He gave us one piece of paper.
The nuts and bolts of the contract is we contract with them for traffic.
For the sheriff.
And
Or
that's
state
8
police.
hours, that's 8 hours a month, correct, Dick? They're
So it's
doing 8 hours.
actually more than that. Services provided by the sheriff's office are furnishing patrols, investigating criminal activity, apprehending offenders, preparing cases for prosecution, final disposition of any motor vehicle violation or criminal
Right.
offense, investigating accidents, vehicle VIN numbers, provide assistance to the animal control officer if needed, and general patrol service, and to provide for other policing needs as directed or requested by the select board.
Right, but what I'm saying, the contract was for 8 hours for the state police a month and 12 hours for the sheriffs. a
Right.
month, Right? Okay.
So to answer your question in a different way, Troy, we would be paying $800 less and receiving 30% fewer hours a month.
Right.
I think the question is, do we need the 12 hours? Or is 8 hours sufficient, or do we need 8 hours?
And
Well, that's 48 extra hours a year.
Yeah,
And didn't the sheriff actually said an hour and a half per month is reserved for emergency calls, so the traffic patrolling is actually 6.5 hours. If that's a
sorry, the
difference,
sheriff's office said that, or the state police?
the sheriff's office. It's my recollection. That's why I want to look at the contract again. I believe he said, and we can check the meeting minutes, that an hour and a half is reserved for emergency calls. The rest are.
It's reserved and utilized to responding to calls for service.
We need to get him back.
So.
It's here in the contract.
So if we, I mean, it's just to compare, if we get that for free from the state, if you call 911, then how, are we
We're actually
really only
paying
getting
more for
6.5 hours per month from the
Yeah.
sheriff versus 8 from the police? I mean, currently, I'm not saying I don't know what they'll do with
Yeah.
the 12 hours per month.
Okay,
But it's just something, if we can look at the contracts and see, then we can see exactly what we're getting and compare apples to apples. The other issues, I just wanted to make sure the sheriff confirmed that they're not, that $49 an hour will be their rate for 2017, because last time they sort of changed it like
that's
a
what
month
he
prior.
advised verbally.
Okay.
We have to look at the state police, we pay them already. So whatever we give them for coming to town is extra. So we're paying them twice versus the sheriff's department
So you're
once.
saying we don't need any? I'm sort of confused then. Are you saying we don't need any sheriffs because we're already paying for the state police?
The state police are the primary service anyway.
So we're saying we shouldn't
So-
be paying,
so-
I mean, my question I guess is, are you saying that we shouldn't be paying for either the sheriff or the state police extra time?
I think we got the sheriff's department here because there are certain times of the year that the town needs a little extra. And the sheriff's department is available. Sheila could call them up and say, look, we have this problem, such and such a day at such and such a time. And more likely the sheriff's department will have somebody there. The state police, it's much more iffy if they can do that. They're under a greater demand for accidents and other criminal investigations, the sheriff's department is. And if I'm sounding like I'm in favor of the sheriff's department, yes I am, but I'm just not. you know, I just think they're more suited to a small town like Guilford than the state police.
But I think what we are also agree is that we have some more questions to ask the state police
Yes.
and also to hear from Keith about his contract.
It also might be interesting, like I know I read in the paper, like Londonderry had I think an ad hoc committee to investigate whether they want their various options as far as policing, and they went with the state police. So it just might be interesting if we can touch base or.
I don't know if they were this year or not, but for several Halloweens, they had at least 2 cruisers out here all through the night on Halloween, night before Halloween.
And I think that's also every other town's priority night as well, right?
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know
Yeah.
where we sit on the list
Yeah.
of,
And
Criminal acts.
there again, you couldn't get the state police to do that unless something happened. Yeah.
okay. Shall we move on to time-sensitive invoices? So
Everyone with this, right?
Yes.
we, from time to time, we receive invoices that offer discounts for timely payment. And we had the experience of it didn't make it onto the warrant, and we were actually, because we had this special select board meeting, we were able to issue, thanks to Ron's attention, the warrant for that one invoice. Ron found for us Chapter 16 finances from the VLCT, which has a suggestion for how to handle this. And I wanted to see if people felt that this was a reasonable way to deal with the issue that it seems to me that it's good to be able to save money.
To simplify it and make it simple, it's been done many times in the past, and I would like to make a motion that the chair be authorized to sign warrants on 2 conditions. One, to avoid a late fee if applicable, and also to ensure a reduction in the warrant if possible.
Is there a second?
Second.
So I think that it might be smart to add to that this would be for previously authorized goods and services. In other words, it should, if it's a select board chair or the vice chair who's authorized to sign this, it would be for something that we know has already been approved. The expenditure has already been approved. It would just be, and it would be paid on a regular basis when it came up at the next warrant. But in the absence, absent time to do that, it seems like we should be able to sign. So, can I ask for an amendment?
Or I guess do we have to vote and then do it?
That's up to Dick if he wants to amend his motion.
I don't care, I just know it's been done in the past, it's always been the chair.
It's always been the chair. Not that I'm afraid to come down and sign for something
No, I'm
that's
just
gonna
thinking
save the
it could be
town.
the chair.
I mean, if it's gonna save the town $100 or something like that, if we, get something paid right away, I mean, I think we ought to do that. It's smart for taxpayers to try to save some of the taxpayers' money somehow. I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but it's up to Dick if he wants to amend his
I don't
motion.
care, change the motion if you want.
So- Let me,
So basically, I'm just going to add only for pre-approved.
so what we had is that authorize the chair or the vice chair of the select board to authorize the treasurer to allow claims and draw orders to pay a time-sensitive invoice, don't take all these notes, I'll give it to you,
Yeah.
for previously authorized goods or services. Authorization to be used only for the town to take advantage of cost savings with timely payments that would otherwise be incurred because the invoice was not received in time to be included on a warrant for the regular select board meeting.
I thought I put that into a lot simpler statement than what you just did.
You did. You did.
I'm putting more restrictions on it.
Okay. So is the second carry now, even though it's seconded again?
I second your amended motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, I'm ignorant about this stuff.
Thank you.
Second is second.
The next thing on the old business is town administration follow-up. There's a very small detail that I need to work out with Katie, and I need authorization to do this. Katie is pleased to accept our offer, except that when she resigned, she was asked to give a little more time to the Windsor Housing Trust over the month of December. And she is suggesting that she work with us for 65 hours from now through the end of December, instead of the 140, which would be the 35 hours a week. And then full-time come January 1st or 2nd. And I countered with a proposal that we make her hire date effective October 30th, which is the date of the letter that we agreed on last time, so that any of her consulting work on the budget and helping out with, she's helped Danny and me on the bridge, be at her hourly rate, not her consulting rate. And she has agreed to that, but I would like authorization to make the hire date effective October 30th. And to cancel, that would in effect cancel her consulting contract with us. And I have the number of hours that she proposes to work starting December 7th, but it's basically 10 to 15 hours a week until, and however much I can get from her now. Like, I know she worked this weekend with me. So.
And she believes that she can get the budget and whatever needs to be done in that time period.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll make the motion that Sheila has the board's authorization to cancel Katie's consulting contract and make Katie's effective hiring date October 30th, 2015.
At her hired rate.
At her hired rate, correct.
I will second your motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Kathy?
Can I just ask why this was not put out and advertised?
I'm sorry, the position?
The
search
position,
for the town
isn't that the
administrator?
normal procedure that would happen rather than,
We actually had quite a discussion about that on the select board and agreed that until we would start an informal search to see what we could find, and we approached a few people about this process after the go-ahead from the select board. And we're fortunate to have a couple of possible candidates, and then Katie expressed her interest in returning. So we didn't have to go through the expense of advertising and the issues of not having, all the challenges that would be present with not having somebody on board during the budget time and getting ready for the town reports and things like that. So it seemed that this was, I think the board is all in agreement that this was the most efficient way to do this and in the best interest of the town.
does this fall within the budget money that was left over from October 1st from the previous administrator?
Does what fall in?
The money that was left over, that was budgeted at town meeting for this position.
Mm-hmm.
Does this fall within that monetary
It's actually less
category?
than that.
It's less than that?
Yes, it is. Yes. For many different reasons. But it is so the budget is not just a single salary line, it's the whole cost of the compensation package. It costs the town much more than just a salary line to hire somebody. And we've had the benefit of, this is a much more advantageous package to the town than the previous. Hard to believe, but it is. Any other questions? So we have now hired Katie officially, and she's actually prepared to send out memos to the commissions and the boards to get their budget figures in to us very soon. And we are going to be inviting the fire department to come the December 14th meeting, and the library to come on the December 28th meeting, I think, in the December meetings.
Yeah.
It's not, and she's already planning on how to get that thing moving, because we're a little behind right now. The next thing on the memo, on the agenda is the needs assessment for building. Short-term solutions for the town office and fuel usage, and an update on needs assessment. Ron, would you like to talk about it, or would you like me to?
You've been doing really good with talking, so you're welcome to, but I have some numbers I crunched if you need
She needs a drink of water. Is
Yeah.
that water?
Jose Cuervo.
So, we have been having long discussions about insulating the pipes, plus minus 400 feet of pipes in the attic. Heat pipes, hot water pipes, right?
Heat pipe.
It's
Pipes.
heat pipes.
Thanks, Carrie.
You sure you want me to talk about this? And Ron has come up with a solution to wrap the pipes in a,
And a closed cell foam that seals around it. It's
right,
hollowed out. It's not very thick foam, but has an R value of 3.2. Not per inch, but the actual piece that we have is like about a half-inch thick wall.
and then he's gonna take the existing batting and wrap it around the foam wrapped pipes.
Which will give us a total R value of approximately 22.2, maybe a little less than that due to compression of the fiberglass.
And we care about the, I'm just gonna feed you lines, we care about the R value because,
Because less heat escapes, and if there's less heat escaping, then we have less chance of ice dams
Right.
forming on the building, like this past winter and a couple winters before.
On the eaves of the building.
Ice dams
and
usually happen on the eaves, but not necessarily on the eaves, but primarily that's where they happen.
Eaves or
And then,
mounds.
Sean had a proposal to use a different type of material. It has a higher R rating than the 3.2 the material that I was going to use. So if we wrap that also with the insulation, then that comes up to an R value of 4. So the heat loss per square meter of the foam plus the insulation is 7.2 BTUs per hour. If we use the other material, then it's 6.66 BTUs per hour. That's based on 180 degrees in the pipe and a low temperature on the inside of the building of 20 degrees. It could get colder than 20 degrees up there, and then we would lose more BTUs, but that's still pretty efficient compared to losing close to 20,000 BTUs per hour on that pipe.
So I don't wanna represent you exactly, Sean, but I think that in an abundance of caution, Sean has been proposing we go with a higher rated, R value rated insulation for these pipes.
That is correct. I've done quite a bit of research, actually, I talked to Ron about it quite
Right.
a bit also.
Yeah,
And I went to web, and then I also looked up online, and I also called my good friend Calvin Grandy, who's kind of has a real mathematical mind. And so I wrote you an email.
Mhm.
Did you receive that?
I received it and I studied it carefully and
Okay.
I was
Well,
98% mystified.
It was very interesting what Calvin told me. The heat loss of a 3/4 inch pipe at 180 degrees, if the ambient temperature is 0, which probably would never be reached, but it would be 123 BTUs per foot per hour.
Yeah,
So, if in a worst-case scenario, that would be, if it was 160 lineal feet of 3/4 inch pipe delivering 180 degree water, it would be 20,000 BTU loss per hour, which, and a gallon of kerosene was what we burn in this office, is 135,000 BTUs in 1 gallon. So, in a worst-case scenario, the way it is now, and the way it has been since 1971, potentially, worst-case scenario, we're losing 1 gallon of kerosene every 3 3/4 hours, 6 3/4 hours.
as is now
As it is now, and as it has been.
with the,
So my recommendation is to spend the extra money, get the best possible insulation that you can, which is It's actually, I have it at my house, it's about 2.5 inches in diameter, and it costs, I think I sent you that, I think it's, $2.73, I didn't write that down, but I think it's $2.73 a lineal foot. But it would save, you know, it doesn't take long, at $3 a gallon,
But
to pump a tremendous amount of,
241 is a foot,
$2.41 a
a
foot.
foot, yeah.
Yeah,
Which is, and we don't know that it's 160 feet, we think it might be closer to 400 if you do all the pipes.
But
all the
But you,
pipes,
sorry, you came up with a different number?
yeah, it's significantly less, because I was basing on the 4 pipes that came out where the boiler is, and I thought all 4 of them came all the way down. They don't all 4, only 2 of them come all the way down to that corner.
yeah, there are 3 zones in this building, one is in the town clerk's office, one is in the lister's office, and the other one is in this room. And the reason that there are 3 zones is to try to save money by being able to turn this heat down. But you can't save any money if you're pumping all the heat out into the attic and causing ice dams.
And as I see it, I think that it's probably pretty fair that 1/3 of the heat that we've generated has probably been dumped into the attic. When you consider that there's that long of a pipe up there that's
It's
Give me that.
considerable. I went up there, I first started getting interested in this, and I met Chad Parham at this office on April 27th, and he sort of gave an overview of the whole office. And because I was elected lister, I got sort of interested. I went up in the attic, I just did it the other day, I went up here, just where these 2 pipes come down to this chase. The pipes are 6 inches away from the soffit vent where you can see daylight. So, if
Right.
it was 0 out, you might achieve for a short
Right.
distance, worst case scenario. So I think if you're gonna do it, you might as well use the best insulation possible because it is physically prudent in the long run. Unless you're not gonna do anything and you're gonna change the whole system. I mean, the system is as it has been since 1971. So, you know, it's either you decide to do something and do it actually the best it can be done, or
this part wasn't on in 1979.
71.
Went on in 71 either.
Oh, I thought that's what this part of the zone.
So,
This was an add-on. Just that part from this wall over was the original.
Right, all right, I'm sorry.
sorry, Ron, did you have one more? Did you
I
say?
had one more thing. When I was trying to put the numbers together, I went out to, because I knew that we just recently had our tank filled up, and I went out back to see, you know, how much we had used in that time frame to try to get an estimate of, you know, what we're using. And the tank is now at 75%. So I called Burroughs, and they said there's a good chance that we didn't burn all that fuel, and the cap was off when I discovered the tank. So I've called them, they've since put a lock on it. Someone could still steal the fuel, but they would have to get a pipe wrench and take the top off to get the fuel out. So it's a little bit, it won't be a crime of opportunity if that's what it was. So
When did we get it built?
So 2 weeks and it's been really
21st.
warm in those 2 weeks.
I was gonna say, I've only burned 78 gallons up there at the school.
Yeah,
well, we've burned close to that.
so I think we have talked about this ad nauseum, and I think we actually have to do something in the next few weeks. I think we have a choice between the insulation that you're proposing to buy and wrapping it in batting, then wrapping the wrap pipes in batting for, what would that be?
I'll give
200,
an R value of two. Oh,
No, the
you mean
cost,
cost? Be
yeah.
less than $250.
less than $250, or doing what Sean is proposing for about, I'm using a figure of 175 feet, just for that's a $421. That is the very short-term solution to a longer problem of what this whole entire building needs. And I would like some recommendations on what we should do, because I think we should do it in the next week or two. Or a motion.
I recall it only been twice that the roof was actually leaking. And that was several years ago when that big, over Barb was still here. And then last winter. And it's exceptionally cold last winter.
Yeah.
So either way, for under $500, we can save much more in
We should be able to save much more in heating. We should take care of the threat of
ice dams, which is
ice dams. And we are leaving to address a capital needs assessment of the entire building to some other date. This is hopefully more than a Band-Aid, yes.
Oh, I was just scratching my face. Sorry.
No,
That's what I'm thinking, if $500 is a Band-Aid, which it could be, $200 might be the same Band-Aid for this winter, and there again, you're looking at a couple $100, but still, it's
there again, it's couple $100
between
difference,
one,
right,
both the
right,
two.
or possibly.
Yeah, and they're both potentially Band-Aids.
May I put out, I think that either one of those solutions will solve the ice dam issue that has affected this building.
Okay. Sean, you had something else you wanted to add?
Well, I just, it's gonna be quite a bit of work, whoever does the insulation. I went up and looked, these pipes, exit in the joist bay, then they immediately run underneath a piece of plywood.
Mhm.
So you'd have to cut the plywood and remove the plywood in order to get the insulation. There's a lot of stuff up there, so
Yeah,
it's not like an easy job. It's not,
and your quote is, your $420 is for the
just material.
materials.
Yeah. Actually, I think it would be, it depends on what what I got from an estimate from Webb was based on 160 lineal feet, which is what Dick had told me. So I think that was 54 pieces. I wish I had those numbers right in front of me, but it was about $400 if it was 160 lineal feet.
Yeah.
So I could get some tighter numbers.
I think we need to make a decision. I'd like to entertain a motion if there's.
I'd like to see some different numbers.
Can I,
Of course, their estimate, the total cost.
Ron, when you say it's for less than $250 in materials and labor, we can insulate the pipes. What was your basis of the labor costs?
I was gonna do it.
Well, thank you.
Jump on it!
It's not age appropriate for somebody like myself. Anyway,
I was gonna do it.
I would actually, if we did fiberglass, I might consider working with Ron doing it, but it would not be.
What's the thickness of the wall, the insulation, Sean?
It's 1 inch of fiberglass.
1 inch of
Both
fiberglass.
sides, so it's
Both
2.5,
sides.
so it's called an iron pipe insulation.
Yeah, I know
It's
what
what
it
you
is.
see, you have it all the
Yeah.
time, yeah.
Yep. It's the same stuff that's in the boiler room up there and stuff like that.
Yes, it would be.
How much room, now that's an inch, do we have an inch between the joists and the pipes?
Well, the
Or
whole.
between the two
yeah,
pipes?
I
Because you got
think
your return and your,
that I'm not, I'd have to check that out.
I'm pretty sure that there is. And the
So
pipes
you
are
got-
not fastened to the joists.
Yeah,
you
Ron,
got two, you got
I said
2
that
inches
correct.
in between the pipes for your return and your supply. And they're not fastened?
You heard me correctly.
I gotta see.
Ron has spent a lot of time up there.
I've
And
made
we,
at least 6 trips up
as a
there.
select board, are probably gonna make a work day up there and go clean documents and boxes and things like that out. So while we're doing that, we can help Ron with the insulation.
Jenny, you're small.
I've been threatened, I've been sent down
You have
sword
to kick off
training.
in 25 minutes. Is there a motion, or do you want to table this?
I think we should table it, get some more information on the total cost.
Exactly how much information more would you like? We know that it's about $420 or $450 for the
Yeah, I
materials.
was looking at that, I was
Versus
looking at Ron's doing it. For hiring somebody
Right.
and, yeah.
Do you know if they sell that insulation over at Home Depot?
They do, but I think it's the same price as Webb's.
No, it's
No.
I think it is. Because I looked it up online.
Okay, the reason I'm saying this, Sean, is because I will go with whoever gets the insulation. and get an extra 10% off
Where,
at Home Depot.
uh,
Because vets get an extra 10% off the cost.
and I think Webb's would probably
If you
do
paid
that
for it.
Also. He's
Yes, if you
You
think.
think I ain't got a Home Depot?
yesterday.
I do. I'm sorry.
That's Kathy about Home Depot, she knows.
Dick, I'm sorry, so you're looking for an installation cost?
Installation
if we go
cost
with
and-
fiberglass and non-bronze?
Yeah, well, either one.
Well,
I mean, basically installation's gonna be the same with either one. Ron might, you might do a bit expensive, I guess, maybe, but,
I tell you what, mine's not gonna exceed $250.
Yeah.
Because if I don't get it done, then I will be doing it gratis.
So, I mean, you know, and if you have to hire somebody to come in, that's gonna be probably a little pricey, so I'd like to get an estimate on the hiring versus,
So,
Well,
let me
it
just
is,
say,
it is a little bit time sensitive. I think Ron's offer is extremely generous.
I do too.
He's worked hard on this.
Yeah,
Is it
Is it
going with my recommendation? No. Does that disappoint me? To an extent, but I think Ron has put a lot into it.
right.
You know, I mean,
I will,
it's a,
with that recommendation, Sean, I will go with Ron's offer to.
You move that we accept Ron's offer
Offer
to
for-
well, it's not
buy.
really a recommendation, it's a reality. I mean, I would love to go up and do it.
I second
but
your motion,
I'm not gonna do it.
and Ron, the day that you go over there to get that, let me know, and let's try to set something up.
I'm also with that.
So there
Surprise.
you go.
Any discussion?
Awesome.
Yeah,
Vietnam.
all you gotta do is.
Sean?
When you're over there, you two, when you're looking at Home Depot,
Hey, gotta go.
Look for the
just look at
fiberglass.
the fiberglass.
I will.
It's really easy to use.
Oh, it is.
It has a
Both
much
of
higher
them.
outlet. The other thing I found was that an inch and a half, one more thing. An inch and a half of foam reduces it from 123 BTU loss per hour down to 20. 3 inches of fiberglass, which I think is what they're talking about because the fiberglass itself is 3 inches in diameter, reduces it to 11 BTUs per hour.
So we
There
will
is-
send Ron
you know,
armed with all of
It's
this.
good, better,
information.
best, the old
Ron
Sears
and,
adage, you know.
I ain't gotta go.
You don't
He
have
can
to
get the
go.
damn thing, same thing I do, as long as he's got the
Sean,
ID
thank
for
you
it.
so much for all of this, your perseverance and all of your research and your attendance and your arguments. And Ron, thank you for the offer and for taking care of this. We did say all in favor, right? Any, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Danny?
Sheila. Would you like to discuss on this topic, or?
Yeah, I've been down.
Like you've been doing all the talking, so I'll let you discuss and I'll try to fill in the blank.
So, first of all, thank you for sitting here through all of this. And I think you might have other things to do this evening. Yesterday, I sent out a memo that, alerting to people that Bridge 64 on Hale Road needs to be replaced. This is something that Dick first brought to our attention, earlier on this year. And we were given to understand that it was kind of an emergency repair. I'm gonna start with the good news. Danny and I went with Mark Pickering and Sven, somebody from V-Trans today. And the bridge does not need to be replaced immediately. We do not need to lower the load limit for the winter. And we have time to put a thoughtful, cost-effective plan in place for this bridge. It is buttressed from below a little bit. It definitely sags, is close to the, what is that called? The wood support,
The bracing.
the bracing. Because we were there when a oil truck went over this morning.
Were you getting run?
No?
I would've ran.
I've been conditioned now. So that's the good news. However, the bridge will still need to be replaced. We have a bridge structure report from 2014, which says that it is in fair condition and the deck should be repaved soon. We talked at length with Mark and Sven about the proposed concrete deck that would be placed on the existing abutments, and the process for doing that, and the engineering that is going into this project. And they are satisfied with the proposed solution. They will check all the documents and the proposals in advance of any decision, but it is not something that we need to do immediately. We are obligated to seek competitive proposals for this, and we can go ahead and do these. We can put out an RFP in the Commons for a cost of $49.50. It's a 3-inch column. Halifax just had a request for a proposal in the Commons for a week, and it's for the week. It's the weekly newspaper, but it satisfies the requirements of our procurement process. And the other good news is that we have a balance in the Bridges Fund of nearly $139,000, of which $57,000 or $59,000 is set aside, and we'll talk about that in a minute, for Bridge 55 on Hale Road, which would leave us about $80,000 in the Bridges Fund. We also have a highway fund balance, surplus fund balance of nearly $319,000 at the end of fiscal year 2015. So we have, if we have to do this on our own, we have sufficient funds to do it. However, if we put in a proposal to Mark Pickering's office
For a structured grant.
for a structure grant, we may be eligible, we may receive some funding, even though we already had the Guilford covered, the Green River Bridge. But we wouldn't put this in until 2016, May of 2016. And we might get, depending on who else is putting in for a bid then, we would, at least we'll be in line for some funding between 2016 and 2017. And he would also do we're up for the bridge to be inspected again in 2016, so that would inform our next, our application. In the context of the bridge, we also have the work to be done on Guilford Center Road, which is a big project, and we talked with Mark a little bit about that today, and he said we should apply for Class 2 roads and structures grant, depending on how are you impressed, Dick? Depending on how the redesign of
You're doing very good.
depending how the redesign of how the road is reconstructed, the design of the road reconstruction. So,
Yeehaw!
yeah, right?
You did good.
Anything else? Anything else? So I think what we thought we should talk about is continuing with an RFP process for the Bridge 64. And planning our budget, fiscal year 2017 budget, to look at that budget, that process, and the other big priority things that we have. So I had said that I would be seeking a motion for transfer of funds to leave from the highway fund to the bridge fund for this amount for this bridge, but I don't think we would need that motion.
One thing to add to your presentation, which was very impressive.
Thank you, sir.
I believe that bridge is on the Wyndham Regional's Accelerated Bridge Program.
Mark was gonna look at that, yeah.
If it isn't, it was,
Okay,
and I think it may be back on now.
okay. So Mark is gonna look at that,
Yeah.
but we can't apply for a grant until May of
spring, right?
2016,
This
yeah.
spring.
Yeah.
But we can go out for bid We can, if we get a bid from others, Mark will look at it. If he thinks that Renaud is the best,
Candidate.
contractor, thank you. We could advise them that we would want to do this work in fiscal year 2017, and then they could adhere to the current contract proposal. Because they would be one of those, that we would be considering. And their current proposal is for $123,500.
Do we, when we send it out for an RFP, do we have to get an engineering specs and everything like that?
We're
We are
gonna have
getting
to have
that.
it,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. So we gotta get that first together before we go out for an
It's-
Then
RFP,
that's
right?
gonna knock.
No,
Yeah.
it's gonna, the RFP would include engineering, removal of the existing bridge, installation of a new deck, installation of bridge rail and approach guardrails, and gravels to match existing road conditions. That's what the RFP would call for.
Okay.
If it wasn't for the bid process policy that we established, I would be in favor of going ahead with what we have. But
Right,
due to that fact, I would perhaps make a motion that we table this until we have time to sit down with all of the information and before we make a decision on what way to go.
is there a second to that motion?
Say that again, please.
Table it until we have all the information that we need.
Information as in,
Table the accepting a bid until we do an RFP.
Oh, yeah, definitely
Yeah.
accepting the bid, yeah, but I mean, the whole project until we can sit down and assess it more, and we can't do anything till spring anyway. So I don't think we need to make a decision tonight.
Is there a second?
Don't we need to make a decision?
I'm gonna ask for discussion on that, but I think he just made a motion, so.
I can't second anything, don't look at me.
well,
I guess my question was, don't we need to make a decision to put an RFP out?
right.
I mean, we should
I
start
mean-
that now, particularly since we're gonna have the covered bridge this summer.
So I'm sorry,
and
I'm
then-
not a real Robert's Rules of Orders expert, but I think we either have to ask you to take your motion back or second the motion and take a vote on it.
If we put it up to bid and don't get any more bids, this is good, right?
So the
Correct.
issue is, that's not the issue right now.
Yeah.
The issue is, we put it out to bid, and we may or may not get other competitive bids, and then we make a decision what to do with the bids. But I think we do want to put it out to bid, so that we have information to work with to make a decision about whether we want to go with the proposals that we have, if we want to get a grant, et cetera.
There's one issue with the grant, that the other bridge, our cost is probably gonna be about the same with the grant as it is if we do it on our own.
It may be, but we don't know that until we get the RFPs, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, the concrete deck is just one option. I mean, we could get a price on doing steel again, which I don't know what that would be. It'd probably be a lot higher than what that price is there.
So the motion that I was looking for was to put out an RFP and for Danny to continue talking with Renaud with whomever might come back with an RFP to get more information.
We'll just reword that motion I made.
So the motion is, Dick,
To put out an RFP. And put it out to bid,
I will second that motion.
which we have to do anyway.
to get
Right.
bids. RFP, put out RFP to get bids
For Bridge 64.
for Bridge 64.
And I will have more information on the status of it, with the original.
Troy, second.
Does that include, putting it in the comments, right, okay. All in favor?
I mean, can I just, and
I'm sorry,
not
go
only that, I was just wondering why we chose the Commons rather than the Reformer or some other.
Way
It's
less
like $600
expensive.
for the reformer.
Does that narrow our ability to get bids though? That's my,
I don't know, it's public information.
It's public information and it's legal. It's posted in a newspaper that goes out to the public and anybody who gets a Commons newspaper.
And the people that look for that sort of stuff, the like Renault, you bet Renault's got someone that looks at the Commons every time it comes out, and every paper that comes out, because they're combing those for bids. That's their bread and butter, so.
You post it on the town website.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
I think we should do that as well.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Danny,
Alright.
thank you, sir. Anything else you want to
Yeah,
report
I'm
to
just
us?
gonna give you a heads up what's going on. We're down on Greenland Bends, which is down here on the Guilford Center Road. We're resetting the guardrails. We should be done with that project tomorrow.
Looks pretty
It
good.
does.
Bridge 55 over on Hale Road was completed last week, which was the $60,000 that we budgeted for the concrete slab. I took the state over there today, we went over and looked at it and they were impressed with it. The Tri-State Asphalt's doing the crack sealing, so hopefully that'll be done between this, probably sometime next week. And then also towards the end of the week, weather permitting, that my shoulder work down on, well, that hollow road where we paved is gonna get done, so. So we got lots of things going on right now.
And we expect a snowstorm on the 17th of November because Danny's going on big vacation.
You know how to drive a stick?
I do. Do I know how to drive heavy equipment? No.
Oh, you're about to get learned.
That's about all I got, unless you guys got anything you wanna
Thank you.
ask, I mean, it's been sort of a busy week this week.
We got room to put any more salt in that shed? I know.
Steve, did you have something?
One quick unrelated question, and whatever the answer is, has the Green River Bridge request for proposal gone out yet?
I'm sorry, do I look like a deer in headlights?
It's all but accepted.
So the bid is out, I
The
mean,
state, well, no, the
No, the
bid
bid's
is
not out. I thought we were gonna
It's not
bid.
out. We're gonna do that. Wait a minute. I got it written right here. Hang on.
The state has all the proposals and as far as I know, there's no issues with it.
The 4th, at one of our meetings, don't quote me on the date, but the RFPs are supposed to go out on January the 4th. I wrote it right here in my date book. And for work to start
I want to say May 26th, probably.
May 23rd.
Can you put a note?
Possible begin work date for Green River Covered Bridge, May the 23rd. On Canadian Victoria Day. I wrote those dates down. I knew somebody did.
So I want to thank Danny, Pete, and Katie for helping get all of this information about the bridge ready. And I hope you have a great vacation.
Just plan on it.
Warrants.
State,
Well,
I would like to make the following motion that we pay payroll. What the heck is the dates on those? Payroll warrant 16030 for $4,519.32. Payroll warrant 16031 for $4,786.98. Warrant number 1909 DP, which is the hunting and fishing license, for $98. And warrant number 1609 for $84,819.88, for a total of payroll and warrants of $94,224.18.
Seconded.
Any questions? So we talked about
I was going through
highlighting,
that after
you're gonna,
that.
afterwards? Okay,
Yeah.
all in favor?
Aye.
Those high numbers was for as Danny just said, bridge number 55 for $59,500. Culverts for a total of $7,563. LaRock work in town on the hydrants for $4,480. And the rental of equipment down on Lowry Road for $1,270. That's just some hit or miss. There's miscellaneous gravel in there for $1,300 and generator work, repairs on the generators throughout town for $1,200 and something.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are we signing those? So the next thing is communications. I think we have an excess weight permit.
That is for Ellis Brothers, I believe it is,
Yep.
correct, right?
Yep.
I would like to make the motion that we grant Ellis Brothers weight permit, all the normals, don't go over there near the covered bridge, stay off the roads, stuff like that.
Does it say where they're going?
No, it doesn't have to.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are you okay with this?
It's a usual, not through the covered bridge.
Stay off the roads in mud season.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do I have to sign this?
Mhm.
Other communications is Wyndham Regional Commission on-site solar array.
So on the on-site solar array, the Agency of National Resource comments for the Public Service Board require a moderate risk construction stormwater permit from the ANR prior to construction of the or site prep due to the amount of soil disturbance the project will cause, 152,500 square feet or 3.5 acres of disturbance. So they have to put in a permit for that and do that before they can start that project down there.
That's from the
On
Wyndham
John's side.
Regional Commission, correct?
And this is the one that is a sliver of land in Guilford? Do you know
That's a sliver of land in
In-
Brattleboro,
that?
and
Most
most
of
of
it's
them
in
in Guilford.
Right.
Right.
But they've got to get that permit before they can even start.
I'm sure that they're probably already on that, knowing the person that's putting it in.
I have a couple things, Sheila.
I'm sorry, you have
A couple
an addition to the
Yeah,
agenda?
Communication
I
type of
see.
thing. If it's not here yet, Jeff Nugent is creating a new map, all the town roads on the new town road additions we
Oh,
made.
it's finally coming?
And he's working on it, and also the fire department, he's working on a new 911 map for the fire department. This is non-official business, but as it stands right now, December 5th, there will be a potluck dinner dance at the Grange to help with some of the, defray some of the cost of tearing apart the barn and rebuilding for Timmy Clark.
So that's December 5th,
5th,
Can you give me a time?
5 o'clock.
and the community is invited.
It's- what is it?
Potluck.
Potluck, yeah.
And dance.
And who's organizing it, in case somebody wanted to find out about putting, I see across, in
The
case
parks.
somebody wanted to contribute potluck food or something like that?
Yeah,
Are you gonna put this on Front Porch Forum?
Marley
Yes.
is also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Going on.
Okay,
Are
There's a
they
dance also, Davis, Andy Davis.
a contra dance? He's gonna do the dance?
And he
He's
has a
done,
band
yeah.
coming too, so it should be a
Okay.
fun time.
yeah.
Is there a donation set up for that?
$10 for the dance.
No, what I'm saying is,
Yes, we're working on that.
if you can't make
Yeah.
it that day, is there a donation where you can?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be a donation.
Great, so I think it's good, I think it should be on Front Porch Forum, just so people, a lot of
Most
people.
of this money will probably go towards Tom Henry's hospital and rehabilitation bills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other business? I'm not going to entertain a motion to move until I see all 4 warrants back here, because I
I
only
don't
have
have
one.
No, you have
I have one.
You
There's
have
payroll.
There's 2.
Two.
payroll over right here.
So I move.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 8:40. PM.
That's not too bad for you, yeah.
Thank you, sir. Considering all the territory we covered.
Actually, it's 9:58.
You moved it.